All right, good morning, everyone. We are going to jump right in. Welcome to our webinar all about no bots needed activities to teach coding remotely. Today we are going to jump into OzoTown. And this is a great block-based activity where your students won't necessarily need bots. There's a great simulator, but if they have bots, they can also use the bots as well. So we'll go over all of those things, and you can also follow along. So we're gonna jump right in. We're gonna quickly go over our 2 ways to code. I just wanna make sure that I have our, I'm sharing my sound here. We're gonna go ahead and start with a video about our 2 ways to code. So most of you are familiar with Ozobot, so you know that we have 2 ways to code, our color codes and Ozobotly. Our color codes we won't be focusing on today, but it is something that with OzoTown, you are able to load the program onto your bot and use it with color codes. But mainly what I will be showing you today is Ozobotly. If anybody has questions about color codes though, please feel free to ask and we'll be able to answer those questions. And for those of you who are here today, you might be more familiar with Ozobotly or this might be your first time, but I will make sure that we are all successful in using Ozobotly to do all the levels of OzoTown today. So to get to OzoTown, what you are going to do is, let me switch my tab. What you're going to do is you're going to go to ozobot.com, which is our website. Then you're going to click on Create. When you click on Create, it'll take you, it'll give you a few different options. There's this Games page right here at the top. You're going to click on Games. And once that loads, you'll scroll down and you'll be able to see OzoTown. Looks like there's a bunch of us trying to get on at the same time. So if you scroll down, you'll see that there is the Play Now button under OzoTown, which we just launched. So again, you're gonna go to ozobot.com, click on Create. Once you click on Create, you will see a Games bar, or you'll see a bar at the top, you'll click on Games. When you scroll down, you're gonna click on Play Now, OzoTown. And I'm actually gonna flip over to an incognito screen because I have completed all of the levels in that screen and it remembers. So one more time, we're gonna go to Create. We're gonna go to Games. And then we will go down to playing OzoTown. All right, great. So just like ShapeTracer 1 and ShapeTracer 2, this game is has 10 levels. The goals section here gives us directions for each of the levels. And when the students complete all 10 levels, they can unlock an unplugged activity. Bots are not needed for this activity. You can see that the bot is here and it actually simulates whatever code is here. But if your students do have a bot, there is an opportunity to flash load the bot using this flash loading zone down here. I don't have any code here, but if that's something that someone would like to see at the end, go ahead and ask that question and we can cover that during our Q&A at the end.
And Cassandra here, sorry.
Yes.
You just want to make sure that your students recreate, since we're using the line navigation blocks that you can see on the left, it actually does need a line to run the code. So they would just need to recreate the maps with marker if they want to run it with a physical bot.
Thank you so much. Cassandra is our content manager, and that's a really good point. If the student Flash loads the bot and tries to run it and they haven't drawn a line, the code tells the bot to follow the line. So it actually won't initiate until it senses a line to follow. So if students do want to do this at home with their own bot, remind them to draw that line and to recreate the picture as best as they can. All the blocks that are needed for OzoTown are here in this left-hand panel. We give you everything that you need. The most important part of OzoTown, let's see, I don't know if I can skip ahead. I can skip ahead. There are some levels with speed signs. So this is what makes this game much more challenging. It's a lot of logical reasoning and sequencing skills, and speed has to be taken into consideration. I'll let you know more about that once we get to those levels. So some ideas for how this can be implemented in your classroom. I know we are mostly in a remote learning environment currently, so there are two ways that we recommend that you can approach this. Either you can teach this synchronously with your students using an I do, we do, you do model, where you have your students pull up, just like I'm asking you to do now, pull up a side-by-side screen with a Zoom video call or whatever video platform you use, of you instructing, and then them pulling out up OzoTown in a separate browser so that they can follow along. Another option is you can assign this to your students asynchronously and come back and have a discussion with what was easy, what was hard, what strategies did you use to figure out any issues that you had, how did you solve challenges, were there multiple solutions to any levels, or having students screenshot all of the levels after they've found those solutions. If you have any ideas as well, in addition to these other ways that you can implement in your digital classroom, feel free to share in the chat. We love discussions and sharing of ideas, so please feel free to do that if you can think of anything that might be beneficial for other educators as well. So we're going to jump right in to level 1. This is the bot and this is the simulator, and we are going to actually code the bot to get all the way home. So this red dot with the black dot in the middle signifies the end point. So I'm going to go over to my left-hand side, and I'm going to, there's only one block available. This block says follow to next intersection or line to end. And this line doesn't have an intersection and it ends right here. So I'm just going to use one block and hit red. Another really great thing about OzoTown is that it tells you if you've gotten the golden Ozobot, which means you've made the most succinct and the most efficient code possible. So just like in ShapeTracer 1 and ShapeTracer 2, if you use more blocks than what's most efficient, it'll actually tell you, I'll give you an example here, your solution works, but you can do better. So your students are going to get that immediate feedback of what works, what could be better, or what's absolutely wrong. So if I try and pull this away, it actually tells me I'm not doing it correctly. And then it also tells me when I've been the most efficient with my code. So that's another really, really great thing about OzoTown. In level 2, this is where we actually run into an intersection. So my bot is going to run all the way up to this intersection, and I have the code for that, follow to next intersection or line end. When it gets to this intersection, I actually need to tell it which direction to go, and I want it to go to this red dot here, so it's going to go straight. But notice when I get here, I tell it to pick the direction. So this is where that logical reasoning and that sequencing really comes in handy. You can explain to students, yes, your bot knows the direction, but you didn't actually tell it to move anywhere after it's picked that direction. So it actually needs another follow to next intersection or line end code at the end. And a shortcut that you can show them is when you click on any of the blocks, or when you right click on any of the blocks, you can duplicate them by right clicking, clicking duplicate, and then just popping that on rather than having to go to the side navigation every single time. So that's a fun shortcut you can show them. We're gonna run this again. And again, this is the most efficient code. Now in level 3, this is where things get interesting. We have a speed code here. or I'm sorry, a speed sign. So just like in real life, when we have speed limits, this Ozobot has a speed limit here. And just like in ShapeTracer 1 and ShapeTracer 2, the speed has to be set before the bot crosses that speed sign. So we are going to set the line following speed first. You can see that there's four arrows here, and only one of the blue ones, only one of the arrows is blue and highlighted, which means it's the speed slow. So if 2 were filled in, that would be medium. If 3 were filled in, it would be fast. And if 4 are filled in, then it's very fast. And you can see it corresponds with the code here. So my speed is slow. I need to line follow all the way to the intersection. And then this is where you want to review directionality with your students. Make sure they know right from left. And my bot is going to turn right. Nope, wrong block. And again, even though the bot has picked the direction, it doesn't mean that it's going to continue to line follow. So we need to actually put another line following code at the end. And we are going to hit run. And again, this is the most efficient code. So we can move on to the next level. And here we have level 4. So again, the line following speed, this has 3 blue arrows, and we need to set that first before our Ozobot crosses the speed limit sign. So let's see, 3. You can also show your students it's not slow, it's not medium, it's fast, because it's the third one down, because there are 3 arrows highlighted in blue. Then it's going to line follow all the way, line follow all the way to the intersection, and it's going to be following this way. So now it needs to go straight. And again, I'm going to duplicate it. And once it picks straight, it has to line follow all the way to the red dot. There we go. Again, that is the most efficient code. We're going through this very quickly, but in the later levels, it gets pretty sophisticated and gets pretty complicated, where your students really have to use those logical reasoning skills. So here, this is where one of those levels where it starts to get a little bit more complicated. Our goal is telling us that we need to go to the site first and then go home. And we have a line following set speed towards the end. So I don't need to set my line following speed until my bot crosses that sign. So I'll show you what I mean by that. I'm not going to set that speed until right before it hits that red dot. So I'm going to actually follow my line all the way to the intersection. I have to go to the blue dot first. So I'm going to pick left, and it actually needs a line follow all the way to that blue dot. And now it needs to turn around. So I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to have it go back. But the thing about when it goes back, it needs to actually, again, line travel all the way back to that intersection, but I want to show you what it does. It doesn't actually move backward like it does in ShapeTracer. It actually makes a U-turn and then travels straight. So for your students who might be trying to sequence this all at once, if they think it's moving backwards, when the bot gets to this intersection, if they think it's moving backwards, the bot will have to turn right. But if it's moving forwards, it's going to have to turn left. So that's where directionality and logical reasoning are really, really important and come into play here. So let me show you what I mean. It goes straight and then actually U-turns, and it's a left turn that's needed next. If your students are assuming that it's moving backwards, they would assume that a right turn is needed next. So encourage your students to test their code as they're building it and as they go, because if they build a huge long piece of code and they don't understand where the bug is, it's going to become really, really confusing to them. So I know when I was in the classroom, I always encourage students to test pretty much almost after every block, so that they could be successful and not be frustrated, too frustrated to continue. So again, my bot needs to turn left after this. And here, before it line follows to the end, I need to set that speed. So remember, it's picked the direction, but it hasn't moved yet. And this speed is going to be fast. and then it's gonna line follow all the way to the end. So we'll reset that, and we'll try it again. All right, again, we got the golden Ozobot. That was the most efficient code. Whew, all right, this is getting pretty sophisticated. We're gonna, again, go to the blue, and notice on top of the blue dot, there is this wait timer. This wait timer, we've included a timing instruction here. The wait timer, your student can choose any wait time, but it doesn't matter. There's no correct amount of time. So it's up to them what they would like to choose. But again, for that speed sign, they do need to choose the correct speed based on what the blue arrow shows. So they're gonna go to the blue dot, wait for any amount of time, come back, travel all the way to the end, and then travel home. So what we are going to do is, again, we're gonna line follow to this intersection. My bot will have to turn left. Again, it needs to line follow all the way to the blue dot. Then it'll need to wait. Again, your student can choose whatever amount of time they'd like. I'm gonna choose 1 second here. And then once my bot gets to that point, it needs to U-turn, or it needs to pick the direction back. And then we want it to travel all the way through this intersection. So I'm gonna test this because I built a huge piece of code and I wanna make sure that we are successful up to this point. So it waited, it turns around, it got to this intersection. So now if I put line follow to the end, it's gonna miss that speed sign. So what I need to do first is I need to pick my speed. And there's one blue arrow, so that means it's slow. And I'm going to set my intersection, or set my line following all the way to the next intersection. Then my bot is going to turn right and then follow all the way to the red dots. So we'll reset this again. Uh-oh. Let's see. Ooh, I made a mistake here. So let's try this again. It got to the intersection and it set the line following speed to slow. Let's see what happened here. Ooh, it set the line following speed to slow, but I did not pick a direction for it to travel. So that is where we set the speed, but it needs to know which way to go. So again, even though I've done this multiple times, I still make mistakes. It's always really good to have your students build this carefully, slowly, and to check their work. So there we go. Again, we have gotten the golden Ozobot and created the most efficient code. All right, so this level 7, we're in a similar situation where we want to go to visit 2 blue dots. It looks like we have a speed sign at the first one, we have a wait sign at the second one, and then we need to make it all the way home. So we're gonna line follow to the intersection. Then we are going to pick our direction straight. And then I need to set my speed. And it looks like this one has 3 blue arrows, so I'm gonna set it to fast. And then it's gonna follow all the way to the blue dot. And I'm gonna check my code here because I know that this is my first point that I need to visit. So I've checked my code, it's made it here, and now I need to turn around. So I'm gonna turn around. And it's gonna follow to the intersection. So it's gonna travel all the way back up here. Then it needs to turn right. And once it turns right, it needs to follow the line all the way to this intersection. Once it gets there, it's gonna turn left. Once it turns left, we need it to go all the way to the top. And we need to wait for, I'm gonna choose 1 second. So let's try this code. Let's see if it can get all the way here without any issues or bugs. Looking good. So we're there, and now all we need to do is we need to get it to the red dot and make it all the way home. So we are going to pick the direction back. And remember, when it goes back, it actually U-turns. It doesn't move backwards. So it U-turns, and it's gonna line follow all the way to the intersection. and then it needs to go straight. And then it's picked the direction, but actually we need to tell it to move all the way to the end of the line. Let's try this again. All right, and it looks like I have a question, a really good one from Nicole. She's asking, when you set the speed, oh, looks like Cassandra answered it, but when you set the speed, it actually lasts until you tell it to change. So it's gonna last the whole time until you set it to a different speed or you start the program over. So that's a really, really great question. I'm sure your students might have the same one. All right, we've gotten very sophisticated here. We have our bot that actually needs to visit the blue dots in numbered order. So we need to go to the first dot, then the second dot, and then all the way home. Now what's tricky here is, notice the speed sign. I'm gonna cross that speed sign going this way, and when I come back to go home. The speed sign is only pointing right. You can see that the arrows are pointing right, but that speed does need to be set whenever I cross it. So whether I'm traveling left towards my 1 and 2 stops or traveling right towards my home, those it needs to obey that speed. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start my line following all the way to this intersection. I'm going to pick left. And then now before it moves forward, we need to set that speed to slow because there's only one blue arrow. So I'm gonna set my line following speed to slow. Then it's gonna travel all the way to this intersection. So let me show you what I mean by that. It's gonna go left. And so if let's say, let me just show you, let's say I do very fast. Let's reset this. It would actually stop me here and tell me that that's inaccurate. So it does stop to let you know if the speed is not correct. So I'm gonna set that back to slow. I've made it all the way here. So now I need to pick my direction, right? I'm gonna follow all the way to the line ends, and I need to wait. And again, I'm gonna wait 1 second. Let's try that again and test it. My speed is good. It's turning, looking good. It's waiting there. So now I need to turn back. I need to move back, which actually means turn around. It's gonna follow all the way to the intersection. And then it needs to choose the direction straight. And then it needs to line follow all the way to number 2. So I'm gonna reset that, try that again. I could continue on and try and code this all in one giant piece of code, but I wanna make sure that I'm not creating any bugs that I'm unaware of. So this is helpful for me as well. So I'm gonna now pick direction back again. It's gonna travel to the line ends. Then it has to turn right. And because I set the line following speed already, it's still traveling slow. So I do not need to use another set speed block because it's already traveling at that speed. So I'm gonna have it travel all the way to this intersection, and then it needs to pick the direction straight again. And then it needs to go all the way, travel all the way over to our last intersection. So let's try that. Let's see if it gets all the way to this endpoint on the right. Great. And then now we have our very last bit where our bot needs to turn left. And then it's going to line follow all the way to the end. And that should be our completed code. So I'm doing this super quickly. I've done this multiple times, so I'm pretty fluent in OzoTown. I'm really familiar with the maps. For your students, this is gonna very possibly take a while because they have to reason through all of the steps and get familiar. So allow them plenty of time, allow them a lot of time to debug and to test and to try and to reiterate on their code and celebrate the process. Coding isn't about who does it the fastest, it's about how do we reason through and make sure that our code is not only efficient, but makes the most sense. So encourage all of those skills while you're teaching this to your students. All right, so here we go. This has gotten pretty sophisticated. We have stop 1 where we need to wait. Maybe we're picking up groceries at stop 1. Then we're gonna go stop 2. Maybe we're dropping off our sibling at soccer practice. And then we're gonna travel all the way back home, but we have multiple speed signs to be wary of. So I'm gonna think about my path to 1, and there aren't any speed signs there. So I'm just gonna start coding. We're gonna go to the intersection, and we're gonna pick our direction straight. And then my bot needs to continue all the way to the end of the line. So it's gonna hit number 1, and then we need to wait. Let's run that and test that. Looking good. I'm going to travel back now. And remember, it actually U-turns, and it's gonna travel all the way back to the intersection. And I'm gonna have to pick the direction right. Now I picked the direction right, but it's not actually gonna start traveling yet because I need to set that speed. And again, I'm gonna go to set line following speed. This has 3 blue arrows. So if I pull this drop down, it's 1, 2, 3, that is fast. So 3rd one down, so that means it's fast. And I'm going to follow to the next intersection. I'm going to turn right, and I'm gonna travel all the way down to number 2. So let's try that. See if that works. Looking good so far. So now it needs to, again, turn around. So it's gonna pick direction back. It's gonna go to the line end, which puts it to this intersection right here. And now we can actually have it travel. We're gonna pick direction left. We're gonna have it travel all the way back to this intersection. But remember, I already set my speed to fast, so it doesn't need to be reset again. I don't need another block because it's already traveling at a fast pace. So now it's going to this intersection here. And I'm gonna pick the direction straight because now I'm trying to get home. Now this is where my line traveling speed does change. I need another speed block because I need to set the speed before it actually travels this line. So I'm gonna set my speed to the 2nd one down because there's 2 blue arrows, and that is medium is the 2nd one down. And then it's gonna follow all the way to the line end, and it's gonna travel all the way here. So let's test that. Let's see if I get all the way there. If I do, then it's easy peasy from that point on. Now all I have to do is turn, oh, whoops. I have to turn left and then line follow all the way home. So you can see while OzoTown starts off pretty simply, it gets pretty challenging pretty quickly. This is really, really sophisticated. There's a lot of sequencing and logical reasoning skills that are needed here for your students. All right, we've made it to level 10. Congratulations. So my bot is up here. Ooh, there's 3 speed signs. There's 2 wait timers, and then it's actually telling me what stops to go to in what order. So I want to make it down here first. So I'm going to break this down into segments. I'm going to actually, if I were teaching, I would show my students, this is the path that I need to travel, right? So what are we encountering in that path? We have 1 speed sign, we have 2 intersections, and then we have a wait timer. So I'm going to visualize in my head. First, my bot, before it travels, remember, I need to set that speed. So I'm going to set my speed to fast because there's 3 blue arrows and it's fast is the 3rd option down. Then I'm going to line follow all the way to the 1st intersection. My bot is going to turn right. Then it's going to line follow all the way to the intersection right here. Then my bot is going to turn left. Then it's going to follow all the way to that number 1. And then it's going to wait 1 second. So let's go ahead and try that and see what happens. There we go. Looking good. Now it's going to turn around. So we're going to pick direction back. It's going to line follow all the way back up to this intersection. So now it's here. And notice before I get to 2, I have to change my speed again. So I'm gonna set my line following speed to the second option down because I have 2 blue arrows on that speed sign, which is medium. It's going to pick my direction forward, straight. And then I am going to follow all the way to that intersection, all the way to the line end, which is number 2. So let's see if that works accurately. Looking good. Now I need to turn around, which means I'm going to pick direction back. I'm going to follow all the way back to this intersection right here. Then my bot is going to turn left. Then it's going to follow all the way back to this intersection where it's going to pick direction right. And before it line follows to number 3, I need to set my speed to very fast, which is, I know that because there are 4 blue arrows highlighted, and very fast is the 4th option down. It's going to set that direction, and I need to line follow all the way to the end. And then again, here I have another wait timer. So I'm going to have my bot wait 1 second. So let's go ahead and try that. If this works, it's pretty simple all the way home. Looking good. So now I need my bot to pick direction back. I'm going to scroll down a little bit to give myself a little bit more room. It's going to line follow all the way back to this intersection. And remember, it actually makes a U-turn. So for the final segment, it needs to pick direction right and then line follow to the end. Let me scroll up just in case anyone needs that full piece of code. Oh, looks like we're cutting off a little bit of the top. Let's see if this is helpful. There we go. So there's that full piece of code for you to follow along. And there we go. We've completed all 10 levels, and this is where students can unlock the game, download it, and actually print this out and play a tabletop version if they have an Evo on hand at home for them to utilize. So that is OzoTown. Thank you for joining me as I navigated through that and showed you how to use that. What we can do now is we can move on to Q&A if we are ready for that. Cassandra, were there any questions that came up in the chat?
Sorry, I lost my chat box. Okay, there we go. So Jill just asked, are there puzzles besides these 10 that are more appropriate for K-2? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so I would actually, this is very rigorous. So I'm a former, elementary school, primary school teacher, kindergarten, 1st grade. What you could do is you could start with beginning levels of ShapeTracer 1, and ShapeTracer 2 would be pretty rigorous for that age level, but you could just tell them we're only going to do levels through 5 or 2 or whatever you deem is rigorous enough for your students. That is what I would recommend for the younger students.
Great. Oops, I just wrote YouTube instead of YouTube. I like YouTube. Okay, so we also, Linnell is wondering where to find OzoTown, so I'm gonna go ahead and post that in the chat. And then, let me see. We had a question that I think everyone can benefit from. Someone was wondering how they can incorporate math content standards into OzoTown coding. And I'm not familiar with each individual standard to know which ones OzoTown might fill. So if you have any insights on that, that would be great. But I did want to point out that OzoTown is a game made with Ozobot, which is our coding editor, where students can make their own programs. It's not structured with the problem and solution. They can create whatever program they want. And we have a lot of lessons for Ozoblockly math and other subjects in our lesson library in Ozobot Classroom, which I'll also post a link for. So you can just filter by subject and then Ozoblockly and find all sorts of other things you can do with our block-based coding.
Yeah, absolutely. And while we don't have formal lesson plans written for OzoTown quite yet, ShapeTracer 1 and ShapeTracer 2, those lesson plans are under the core coding curriculum under the second grade Ozoblockly lessons. And those do have math Common Core state standards tied to them. So that's a good place to start if you're looking for standards that might fit OzoTown. Anything that has to do with logical reasoning skills or sequencing skills would also apply to OzoTown as well. But again, I'm in the similar boat as Cassandra. I haven't had a moment to be able to kind of flush through that to figure out what standards would make sense to match to this activity. But that's something that we're happy to follow up with if that's something that people are interested in. Somebody's asking where the lesson library is. So if you have created a Ozobot Classroom account, I will actually just show you Ozobot Classroom. It's free to create an account, so anyone can create an account. I would highly encourage you to create an account if you have not yet. When you log into Ozobot Classroom, you'll see your screen will look exactly like this, and you can actually click on lessons here. And this takes you to our lesson library. So this is where our library of user generated content and official Ozobot lessons are stored. Our core coding curriculum is here. Currently we have kindergarten through 5th grade. We've developed this in particular for teachers who may not be as comfortable teaching computer science or don't have the background knowledge. So this is the perfect launching point for anybody that gets Ozobots and is like, I don't know where to start. This is where I would recommend you check out lessons and get started so that you can teach those basic computer science skills to your students. And it is Common Core state standard aligned along with ISTE and CSTA. And again, if you're looking for those standards, if you go to 2nd grade, we have ShapeTracer lessons with fully fledged out lesson plans in lesson 8 and 9 with standards tied to that. So that might be a good place to start when looking for standards.
Yes, thank you. Jill was wondering, well, first Emily's had this question up for a while and I just wanted to update you, Emily. She says, is there a voiceover or a way for students to get directions read to them? As of right now in OzoTown, there is not a way to do that, but I did put in a question to our web development team asking if one of the programs that reads on-screen text aloud might be compatible, and he said that he would look into it. So please, Emily, feel free to email us with that question and we'll continue to look into it. And it also helps us know that that is a feature that you want. So we can, if we ever do updates to OzoTown, that's something we can consider. And Kellyanne King is wondering if OzoTown is available as an app. Do you want to answer that while I look for other questions, Melissa?
Yeah, so just correct me if I'm wrong. It's not available as an app, but your students can use a browser in an iPad or a tablet and go to ozobot.com and again, click on create, click on games, and pull up the games, and they can actually do it in the web browser on their tablet. Is that accurate, Cassandra?
It is, yep.
Okay, great. So if you're looking for an app, the Ozoblockly app is a really great app. It won't be as structured as this. It's a little bit more freeform, and there's no simulator aspect in Ozoblockly, but they'll be, if they have a bot on hand, they can Bluetooth connect to the Ozobot app and actually execute their code with Bluetooth.
Yep, exactly. And then along those lines, Lisa just asked, are there any limitations on the iPad? There are not. As they were testing OzoTown, they did recommend that you put it to landscape mode instead of portrait, and said that that helped a little bit. But yeah, that's just a little thing to keep in mind.
And also, the engineering team recommends that anything smaller than an iPad mini was too small, just because there's not enough room to do that block-based coding. So we do recommend, like, a phone wouldn't be ideal, and it wouldn't work on a phone. So an iPad type size screen is ideal for any type of tablet.
Jill was wondering, are the only ones that kids can do online ShapeTracer 1, 2, and OzoTown? Yes, they are the only simulator lessons that we have. But we do have a blog post, which I'll also post in the chat, that if you have an Ozobot, and we did a whole webinar, if you have an Ozobot at home, how you can engage your students who don't have Ozobots at home. So we can post the links to those resources if you're wondering about more things, ways you can engage them with Ozobot. And then she's also wondering, do kids have to log in to use ShapeTracer 1, 2, and OzoTown? And the answer is no. They can just click the link from the website and no login will be required. Okay. Andrew's wondering, is OzoTown coming out in any other languages? As far as I know, there are no plans to do that, but definitely, Andrew, email us. We are always open to suggestions. So if we get people telling us that's important to them, it's something that we'll look into. So definitely email your feedback to support@ozobot.com and make your voice heard.
While Cassandra is looking for more questions, I just wanted to remind everyone that I know this video recording is super long, so if you're looking for the solutions for OzoTown, they will be in multiple places. You can re-reference this recording when we publish it in the upcoming days, which will be on our YouTube channel. And again, if you've opted in for updates on our website, you'll be emailed a recording. We also have the webinar slide deck that you can reference. Let me actually show you. Every single slide, I've included tips and the actual sample code for the solution for every single level. So this slide deck will be on our webinar page once we publish our recording. So that's another way that you can access all of the solutions. And then we will be publishing a OzoTown blog coming soon, which will also have all of the images of the solutions and instructional tips. So that will be available for you as well. Were there any other questions that came up, Cassandra?
Yes. I thought so. Hang on. Oh, is there a link to Google Classroom to assign? How to answer. So you would just, I'm not sure if this is what you do with your other external links, but I can post the link that you can post in your Google Classroom assignment to give to your students. And then if you wanted, based on how you wanted them to submit their work, you could have them send you a screenshot or a screen recording or something, and they would have to go back to Google Classroom. But in terms of getting them to OzoTown, you can just post that link that we gave and it'll take them right there. Does that help? Okay. And some people are asking, people who I told to email us, I just want to, I'm going to put in the chat the email address for your suggestions, your comments. Jamie, if I don't have time to answer you before I end the webinar, they can also help troubleshoot if you're having any troubles with calibration or anything. They're really great and they'll make sure that you're successful. So the email address is in the chat.
It looks like Ellen is asking if students can get to those solutions. So if that's something you want to share with them, you're welcome to share the links to this webinar, to the blog post, if you would like, but otherwise they're in OzoTown, the solutions aren't explicitly posted anywhere. Okay, great. Yeah, I imagine you didn't want to give them solutions. So unless they're digging for them, I don't know that students would necessarily be able to find them. So, all right, great. I will go ahead and take care of some housekeeping items, Cassandra, unless any other questions come up.
Sounds good. We have Karen asking, will there be more puzzles for OzoTown? No plans for that right now, but if you really love it, again, email us and let us know to help us prioritize what we work on in the future. We have a lot going on in Ozobot Classroom, our software for you to assign lessons and see how your students are doing. So we just wanted to give something for people to do while they're at home, because people have been asking for OzoTown and we know people have been waiting. But as of right now, there's not a plan to have more OzoTown activities. But you can use it as inspiration for your students to create your own challenges in Ozoblockly, and then definitely submit them to us and get a t-shirt.
Great. All right, if you want to connect with other Ozobot educators, if you have other questions or want to brainstorm, please join our Facebook group. We have a really great network of teachers who are really passionate about using Ozobots in their classroom, and this is an easy way to connect with them. If you have come up with any brilliant lesson plan or ideas, feel free to use that our lesson creator tool in Ozobot Classroom. Again, once you submit your first lesson and it's been approved, you do get a free Ozobot shirt. If you submit 3 or more lessons, you'll be invited to apply to our certified educator program, where if you want to learn more about that, please email us. There's a lot of really great swag, including a free 12-block classroom kit if you become a certified educator. There's a lot of really great benefits to that program. So if that's something you're interested in, please email us and we'll get you more information about that. If you are new to Ozobot and you'd like a demo, or you just want a refresher about our 2 ways to code, feel free to request a demo using ozo.bot/request demo if you'd like to learn more. And again, just a few reminders: if you'd like a PD certificate for this time you've spent with us this morning, email support@ozobot.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. You'll be able to see content from all our past webinars and more other really fun content. And if you'd like that email notification of these recordings when they are completed and ready to be shared, opt in for updates at ozobot.com. It's on our website, and you just plug in your email address and you'll get all of our updates. So thank you everyone for spending your morning with us. We do have a couple minutes left, so if there's any last questions, it looks like there's somebody asking about the Facebook group. Let me go back to that slide for you. There we go. All right, great. All right. I think if there are no more questions, we can go ahead and say our goodbyes. Thank you everyone for joining us. Oh, Jill is asking, do you have a place where we can get these pictures so that kids can use their own, create their own OzoTown maps? So currently what we do have is, again, when the students complete the game, let me switch my screen share.
And Melissa, sorry to interrupt, Hanga also pointed out that next to the run button, they can, download the documents.
Oh yes, here we go. So here, if you want to download the documents, these are all the maps. Mm-hmm. And then if with the game that is unlocked, let me go ahead and show you what the images look like. So they could create and pull from the images here. That's something they're interested in. Great. All right. Was there anything else, Cassandra, that popped up?
Meg just asked, will we continue to add other coding that won't require a bot to use for next school year? I'm assuming, Meg, that your students aren't going back to school quite yet with the school closures. We have a couple no bots needed lessons beyond these in our lesson library. But we also have a video competition going on right now, which everyone should enter if they want, where we are allowing, are we doing that? The no bots needed lessons are allowed? Yes, I think so.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So part of that is that teachers can submit either a color code lesson, an Ozobot lesson, or a lesson where no bots are needed. So look out for some of those in the lesson library as people submit their videos.
And Meg, if you want to know more about that video competition, we have on our webinar page, we have the recording to that webinar. And also we have a blog post with descriptions of what we're looking for. And the winner is going to receive a free Ozobot classroom kit for creating the most unique and unique video, not necessarily unique, but the strongest instructional video for students to use. And we're particularly thinking about students in remote learning situations for these videos. So the stronger your content, the more successful students can be in these remote learning environments, the better. So.
That reminded me of something else. Did I just forget? Video. Oh, actually, yeah, we're actually, given the remote situation, the prize for the video is actually a bot for each student in your class. So that's like up to 2 classroom kits. So
oh, wow.
if you want. Sorry, I'm plugging our other videos right now, or our other webinar right now.
That's great.
All right, I think that's it.
All right. Thank you everyone for joining us. I hope you learned a lot today, and I hope that this is effective and that you'll be able to share some of this content with your students. We hope everyone stays safe and healthy out there, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.